Welcome to a fairy tale world of secrets and transformations, which, like Sleeping Beauty, lay undisturbed for centuries. Those who dared venture into these primordial forests called it the Devil's Garden. But in these dark forests lies a hidden treasure, a shimmering natural jewel. Here the elements merge to create a magical landscape like no other. The savagery and the splendor of nature combine to create a kingdom formed and ruled by water. Each season brings its own beauty, reshaping this ever-evolving world. Some struggle to survive. Others relish the changes. But winter or summer, from caves of ice to torrential cascades, nothing escapes the spell which water casts over this world. This is Plitvice, land of the falling lakes. A decade ago, civil war tore the Balkans apart. It's hard to imagine that this seemingly untouched wilderness was a victim at the front line of a brutal conflict. But Plitvice's strength lies in its almost supernatural ability to regenerate and heal itself. This restless landscape is constantly in motion, continually building new basins and dams, creating waterfalls and cascades. Sinuous forests cloak the margins of the watery labyrinth, while gravity-defying trees cling to the cliffs, nurtured in the fine spray of waterfalls. The Plitvice Lakes National Park and World Heritage Site is found in southern Europe's Dinaric Mountains, running parallel to the Dalmatian coast. This once unfrequented corner of modern Croatia is also called Lika, or Land of the Wolf. Lika is again living up to its name as the wolf returns to its old haunts. They're reclaiming a precious fragment of an all but vanished world, one of the last ancient European forests. Despite the difficulties of recolonization, their numbers are rising. Here, ancient trees lie undisturbed where they fall. Perfect for a family of white-backed woodpeckers. The pair feed their growing breed on the assortment of insect larvae found in the dead wood and rotten bark strewn across the forest floor. Down below, another young family is foraging in the leaf litter. Although suckled for their first 10 months of life, the piglets start looking for other tidbits from 2 or 3 weeks. They'll soon refine the art of rooting, for which their snouts are so perfectly evolved. Until then, mother's milk remains the staple diet to which they'll return. Not all pigs are equal. Some nipples give more milk than others. A suckling order establishes itself with the most successful piglets claiming their right to the prime teats. Unfortunately for the wolves that depended on them, deer like this are a rare sight in these forests. The piglets face no such shortages and gorge themselves until the mother decides that mealtime is over. The lone stag has survived the lean winter months and must now build up strength for the challenges of the coming rut, the battle for mates. Others are also looking for a partner. With spring, the cry of the capercaillie, a turkey-sized grouse, is heard across the forests of Plitvice. Known as lecking, the combination of strange clicking sounds and ruffled plumage is designed to make each cockbird irresistible to the neighborhood females. Blissfully unconcerned by their personal appearances, the wild boar family set off to practice further rooting. Where better than a muddy hole to look for nuts, roots, tubers, mushrooms, and insects. This chilling call is a signal to leave immediately. Instinctively, the sow's offspring follow. Wolves howl to establish the extent of each pack's territory and to avoid unnecessary conflict. It also strengthens morale within the group. Mutual encouragement and bonding is essential to a successful hunt. One of Plitvice's brown bears has come to the boar's wallow in search of overlooked morsels. And while he's here, a mud bath will deal with unwanted parasites in his fur and ensure his skin remains healthy. Plitvice has one of the densest brown bear populations in Europe. This sleepy individual's ancestors inhabited a very different world. Traveling back 40,000 years, a blink in the eye of geological time, and the world of the falling lakes didn't even exist. Today's spectacular water features and primeval forest were brought about through dramatic and rapid change. It was as if the devil had worked overtime to create his garden. But far from being the devil's work, the unique topography of the falling lakes is a geological miracle brought about through the elemental marriage of rock and water. The Dinaric Mountains stand on a vast subterranean foundation of porous limestone. Here, rainwater gathers and is eventually swallowed into measureless subterranean caverns. It is the start of a long journey through the passages of this underground maze. Thousands of years of erosion have eaten out a network of great vaulted halls beneath the mountains. In this relentless process, billions of gallons of water wash endlessly through the channels, drawing the lime from the stone. And where the water's course slows, the lime-laden water drops its load to create delicate shapes in the darkness. Like fossilized rain, stalactites hang, literally suspended by time and space, the product of the steady drip, drip, drip of the passing millennia. These alien creatures that evolved in these seasonless caverns were once thought to be human embryos, or even baby dragons. Adapted to the ice-cold darkness, the olm has no eyes and absolutely no color pigmentation in its unearthly body. To compensate, the olm has an excellent sense of smell and the ability to pick up minute electrical currents, allowing it to navigate and hunt in the blackness. The fringed fans on its head are gills, but this cave salamander also breathes through its lungs or skin if necessary. Imprisoned for the curiosity of some distant ancestor, the olm is found in these Balkan caves and nowhere else on Earth. The olm shares its world with some altogether more familiar neighbors, voles, who've turned the caves into the largest mouse hole in the world. Just a few centimeters in size, Martino's voles have the run of these gigantic limestone cathedrals. They say location is everything. The abundance of space mean the voles' families can spread out, using different niches as storerooms, nurseries, and toilets. But in a world without light, food is scarce. The voles must return to the surface to harvest fresh supplies. They come and go as they please, commuting between the surface and the underworld. Traveling in the opposite direction, subterranean torrents finally gush out of the maze beneath the mountain, carrying large quantities of suspended lime. Watercourses channel the heavily laden streams through a natural filter of mosses. Layers of lime form on the surface of aquatic and trailing plants. For the final alchemy that turns water into rock, everything must be just right, with the precise combination of water and air temperatures. When enough lime has been deposited on the mosses, the plants petrify and turn to a material called travertine. Over the millennia, huge porous dams are formed in this way, the beards of moss continually solidifying to provide new building material for the travertine terraces. Little that falls into these streams can resist the chemistry of the water. Like the victims of the Medusa, once living forms metamorphose into a tangle of contorted limbs, coated in lime. Each tree and bough of this sunken forest will play its part in the creation of the land of the falling lakes. taking new routes, the water gathers or slackens its speed. As temperatures change, new Travertine barriers are formed and old basins flood. It is a constant duel between the subtle and shifting forces of water and rock. In the hollow cleft of an old tree, the Ural owl has a family to take care of. The number of hatchlings varies depending on how good the season is. It's tough at the top of a fragile food chain. The Ural owl's favorite meal is foraging on the forest floor below. Bank voles feed mainly on beech nuts, a useful preference as 3/4 of the trees in the land of the falling lakes are indeed beeches. In those years when the beech trees drop plenty of nuts, the numbers of bank voles explode. A good harvest is good news back in the hollow, where if a mother owl could wish for anything, it would be a bumper crop of beech nuts and nests full of bank voles. The black storks also have growing chicks. Unlike the highly social white stork, this shy and solitary relative avoids the bustling cities, preferring the peace of beech trees and virgin forests to nesting on chimney pots and church spires. Male and female share equally in parental duties. The black stork's nests tower above the reach of possible predators. Wildcats are adept climbers and will clear out any nest they can get to. High in their impregnable hole, the woodpecker family also has little to fear. But the forest floor offers the cats enough to eat, as well as ambush practice for a kitten. Young wildcats are on a steep learning curve to acquiring the basic skills of the hunter. With up to 5 kittens in a litter, it'll be nearly 6 months before they're independent of their mother. This wilderness is home to thousands of discrete and interrelated worlds. But there is one astonishing feature that touches all life here and makes this place unique. Plitvice's falling lakes. Away from the roaring cascades and waterfalls, summertime is easy. The Plitvice Lakes offer a rare tranquility. A brown bear splashes along a reed bed. The European pond turtle reluctantly abandons its place in the sun. Bears are competent swimmers, but it's the fish otter that is the master of this element. Here is true poetry in motion. The brown bear returns to its preoccupation with fur parasites. The bear and the otter's morning ablutions are watched by a wide-eyed, edible dormouse. Every nook and cranny of the forest is recycled. The dormice often move into the safety of abandoned woodpecker holes. The dormice have made their nest within, where their babies sleep safe and sound on a soft bed of leaves. This lofty nursery has the practical advantage of being near the dormice's open-air larder, with seasonal produce within easy reach. Hornets harvest the primeval forest in a different way. Biting splinters off rotten trees with their mandibles, they mix the wood with saliva, creating a pulp. Like flying cement mixers, they return fully laden to the construction site. The entrance to the hollow is too large and is being painstakingly modified. The pulp dries to thin, paper-like layers of remarkable strength. Within each comb, the queen has laid an egg. The larvae are constantly fed with a protein-rich puree of insects caught by the ever-attentive hornets. In order to maintain the ideal temperature for the pampered larvae, female workers beat their wings, a living ventilation system. The Plitvice falling lakes exist in a permanent state of dynamic change. 16 lakes make up the present map, but the rivers, streams and waterfalls are simply countless, an ever-evolving cascade of waterways. Rare water dwellers like the fish-eating diced snake threads its predatory way through this geological oddity. The European pond turtle is highly threatened elsewhere. The noble crayfish is another rarity. It makes special use of the high lime content of the water. To grow, the crayfish discards and rebuilds its rigid shell again and again, drawing on deposits of limestone which it accumulates within its body. While its new shell is still soft, the crayfish is understandably cautious of its neighbors, even the turtle. For unwary fish in the shallows, there is little protection from the gray heron's lightning strike. The unfussy otter takes what it can where it can find it, fish or crayfish, with or without their shells. To maintain its frenetic lifestyle, the otter must eat up to 15% of its body weight every day, and is always on the lookout for a crispy snack. Courting toads come in pairs at this time of the year, with the larger female taking her mate on their annual ride around the lake. The heron is missing nothing today. Taking its prey in the shallows, the otter has also made a catch. The heron flies back to its nest, where hungry chicks will be waiting. The hope of regurgitated frog is never far from their minds. After his refreshing bath, the brown bear is now hungry and sets off in search of food. Rotten tree trunks are always a good place to look. Juicy beetle larvae are a particular favorite, and the bear has the perfect equipment for the job. Balancing a tree trunk between his paws requires a little more skill. The carefree joys of spring come to an eerie halt. The wolf pack is on the move again. The bank voles take their young deeper into their holes. The Plitvice packs are turning not only to larger targets like wild boar, but are also supplementing their diet with smaller rodents. This highly unusual situation reflects a major disturbance in the normal balance of predator to prey in the food chain. Whatever has brought about this change, the wolves are not proud about where they get their protein. If nothing better is available, smaller animals will have to do. As spring advances into early summer, it's time for the fledglings to earn their wings. The plump Ural owl chicks are showing little inclination to explore. For some, the homing instinct is particularly strong. This chick has no desire to go out on a limb. Nobody seems to quite understand what the flap is all about. But this is the way all birds eventually learn how to get airborne. And all fledglings must one day take their turn on the high board and make their first flight under the watchful eye of a parent bird. But why do today what you can put off until tomorrow? The young heron triplets stick around the nest for between 6 to 8 weeks after hatching. They're still utterly dependent on the regular delivery of fresh frogs and fish. But very soon, they'll be circling over the falling lakes themselves. With late summer turning to autumn, the season of mists and mellow fruitfulness descends on Plitvice. The female turtle catches the last of the sun. Temperature is all. To hatch no later than September, her eggs must be sufficiently warmed over the summer. If it's too cold and the eggs are not fully incubated, an extraordinary adaptation allows the unborn young to overwinter in their shells and delay hatching until the following year. This year's coin-sized hatchlings face a hostile world. Until their shells have hardened, they're vulnerable on land to foxes, badgers, and martens. Once in the water, things are not much better, with predatory fish and otters, even crayfish, to avoid. Very few will make it into adulthood. Autumn has even reached the bed of the falling lakes. The underwater inhabitants are preparing for the chill of winter. From October, many retreat into the mud on the bottom of the lakes and rivers to escape the falling temperatures. It's now known that during this time, turtles draw what oxygen they need from the water without surfacing. Each creature has evolved its own way of preparing for the shortages and hardships ahead. The red squirrel is busy depositing winter rations in hiding places. Below, the brown bear carries his larder around with him in the form of a thick fat layer, which he is now single-mindedly topping up. He needs to pile on the calories. Berries are actually more energy-rich than meat. Brown bears will dig for roots and insects, collect mushrooms and fruit, using a sense of smell 100,000 times more acute than ours. The badger also navigates by his nose, and today there is clearly something very interesting in the wind. But the bear is there first and has hit the jackpot. Wild bee honey. Close, but no cigar. The badger must settle for insects. The bees understandably resent having their stores plundered. Their stings are becoming almost unbearable, even for a single-minded bear preparing for hibernation. Honey is what bears like best, and with one last scoop, the raider withdraws. He bathes his nose, which has taken the brunt of the attack, and for a brief moment contemplates a second helping. With hibernation looming, the brown bear turns nothing down and will even browse on the last of the leaves. For both bear and badger, it's now time to choose a safe, warm place to curl up, turn all biological settings to snooze, and close their eyes for the big sleep. Although winter tightens across the land of the falling lakes, the waterfalls still fall. And the powerful streams still rush downhill, never freezing, even in the bitterest weather. But as temperatures drop, the chemical processes that turn lime-rich water into stone are suspended. Now only icicles grow from the Travertine terraces. For those not adapted to sleep out the winter, this is a harsh time, and for none more than the wolves. It's now that the absence of larger prey is most keenly felt. It is as if some super predator swept through these woods. And this is not far from the truth. Plitvice's peaceful isolation from the world was shattered with the outbreak of the Balkan War in 1991, which brought the front line to the edge of this Eden. During the war, soldiers slaughtered the population of deer and other game, for food or simply for sport. The wolves live as best they can with this legacy, and life is now returning. Plitvice's waterfalls ensure that the otters' hunting pools never freeze and remain open for business around the year. The power of these falls is thought to actually concuss the fish and make them easier to catch, a useful advantage, especially now. In winter, the otter must come ashore more often to dry and groom its exquisite fur coat, to keep the cold at bay. In the winter wasteland, the wild boars have a tough time of it. The sow acts as a snowplow, breaking a trail for her growing family. The piglets have lost their juvenile stripes and are increasingly independent. The milk has dried up, and it's now every piglet for itself. Only the wild boar's fantastic sense of smell stands between it and starvation. Competition for the meagerest scraps is causing friction within the group. By February, although the snow is still deep, the call of the wild cat looking for a mate anticipates the thaw and the return of life to Plitvice. With large territories to patrol, the male cats must be extremely vocal if they're to have any success. Wild cats are by nature solitary and highly territorial. Their antisocial natures making the business of finding love in a cold climate all the more difficult. Other sounds are less easy to pick up, but the Ural owl's radar dish-shaped face amplifies the tiniest noises, so it can hear voles playing in their holes beneath the snow. Occasionally, the wolves have a lucky break, in this case, a frozen hind. Wolf packs are strictly hierarchical, and troublesome juveniles are promptly put in place. The group's strength lies in obedience to the unquestioning principle of follow the leader. The joys of winter are lost on most, but not all. For the fish otter, snow is merely an extension of its preferred element, only a little colder and with even more opportunities for fun. Tobogganing down snow-covered slopes is also an extremely efficient way of getting from stream A to stream B. Lynx disappeared from Croatia a century ago. At the beginning of the 70s, 3 pairs were released in Slovenia. By 1980, lynx were once again sighted in Plitvice. An estimated 60 animals now live here, all descendants of those original settlers. Few cats like water, and the lynx is no exception. And whether frozen or not, he's taking no chances. Like their smaller wildcat cousins, it is now that the lynx's attentions are focused on finding a partner. And with growing numbers, each year the task should become easier. Winter is turning. Wet snow slides off the branches, and the lakes and waterfalls begin to flow again with their full force. During the Yugoslav conflict, Plitvice, which had for so long escaped the modern world, became a pawn in the politics and blackmail of war. Armed forces even mined these waterfalls and threatened to blow up this national jewel. Plitvice has not only survived, but is returning to normality. a pair of lynx has found each other, refugees returning from the past to reclaim territory in a safe haven where their numbers can once again grow. In the best fairy tales, the dark spell of winter is finally lifted. Sleeping Beauty awakes, the flowers bloom again, and all live happily ever after. Each new spring brings the land of the falling lakes nearer to this happy ending. For centuries, the waters of Plitvice have turned with the seasons on a cycle of destruction and recreation. Once again, nature is reborn, and life returns to garland the banks of the rivers and lakes that give this land its special beauty. As temperatures rise, water and rock reunite to create Travertine, the living stone upon which this unparalleled world of pools and lakes, cascades and waterfalls is each year regenerated and built anew.